I think a large part of it is just that people aren't aware. And, you know, one of my older videos, guy was commenting and asking about veganism and Buddhism. And that was, the Buddha didn't eat meat at all. He was completely vegan. He didn't eat products from animals.
I thought he ate fish.
He didn't eat fish.
Really?
No. He was just very aware of what he was eating, right? And that's what he wanted everyone to understand. It wasn't just a blanket, do not eat meat because of, you know, animal torture. Mm-hmm. He didn't say that. To him, he was watching what he ate. And when you're really watching what you eat, it's very hard to eat the skin of dead animals. No matter how it's cooked, it's hard to eat the flesh of animals. Mm-hmm. If people are more and more aware, if you can actually take in, you know, every bite that you take when you're chewing and you're, you know, just actually digest, you know, eating that food, if you can really pay attention to it, then it's completely up to you. If you're able to completely pay attention to it and be fully present in what you're doing and you see nothing wrong with it, then that's your morality, fine. But I know you disagree. But I don't think it's possible to be fully aware while you're eating flesh and not think it's gross.
Some people are just disgusting. So brainwashed. I know some people though that are just so dedicated to the idea that manhood equates to killing animals and eating animals and enjoying animals, that they are actually very aware when they have it in their mouth. The awareness isn't the issue. It's the brainwashing that they've done to themselves that animals are meant to be food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't really know where it comes from. I've thought about this many times because when I was growing up, and my dad wasn't the type of guy that said, you know, you gotta eat meat, you know, to be a man. Mm-hmm. Although, you know, we ate a lot of meat growing up. We had meat every day, every meal. But I still, for some reason, had the perspective in my mind while I was growing up that it was a manly thing to do. And I think it came from, you know, maybe TV shows, maybe movies, things like that. They're just like, they push that on them. And it's just like, you know, a big piece of steak because you're a man. The commercials were just, you know, about, you know, men eat meat, you know, it's a thing. And that just persisted and keeps persisting to the point where when someone says they don't, they're attacked. I've never seen more hypocritical people than the people that care about the climate. And then they see an article that says that eating meat would solve the climate situation, and they make up every fucking excuse in the book to not listen to it. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, you know, you read this article, but I don't know how me not eating meat will prevent the major corporations from polluting the earth. Whatever the fuck. The science literally says stop eating meat and this will get fixed, but you don't want to listen to it because as soon as it affects you, you don't want to fucking do something about it, because you can talk all you want. If you talk about climate change, if you talk about helping the environment and you're gunning on that and you're really into that and you still eat meat, you're a fucking hypocrite. Stop eating meat or stop talking about it. You don't care about the climate. You don't care about the environment if you're eating meat. Period.
And by the way, someone who says, oh, I don't know, because there's some things that it's like, oh, this little thing that I'm going to do. But actually, every single person that's not eating meat, every day, they're saving thousands of gallons of water that's being wasted. It's so insane. With the carbon footprint, even everything that they do to supply the animals with food. Because they'll say like, oh, what about feeding, you know, they're starving people, blah, blah, blah. The animals are eating more grains and shit than we would. If we just stopped feeding it all to the animals and just ate it ourselves, we'd be fine. But they're not, it's so simple. It's just that people are outrageously brainwashed. And I understand I get so mad, but it's hard for me to get, no, it's easy for me to get mad. But then I get it because it's not like I've been vegan my entire life. I've always been, for the most part, not eating meat. And then when I realized that cows don't naturally produce milk and they actually just get basically raped they just get semen squirted into them in order to produce milk. For one, disgusting, and then having their babies ripped away from them. Before I knew all that, I was drinking milk. I didn't think to look into it. And with eggs, I even was vegan and then still having eggs because the egg companies say that, free range chickens and blah, blah, blah. But then when you go on their websites, like Pete and Jerry's, everything, whatever nice little eggs you think you're getting, you go on their website and they say, we're not responsible for how the male chickens that we buy the female, there's a company that has they're farming all the chickens. They're laying the eggs. The ones that are born male are being crushed up in gears. These tiny little
I saw the
little
pictures
baby
and the
yellow
videos, yeah.
chickies just getting ground up into little pieces while alive. There's no egg that you are eating that is not causing little chicks to be ground up alive, unless you are specifically getting it from a little farm where they tell you that. But even still, it's not. It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg, because they're still getting the eggs or the chickens from somewhere.
Well, regardless of that.
Unless they found a wild chicken, and then started using its eggs.
I mean, regardless of that, you don't have to do it anymore. There's alternatives now, like Just Egg, like you were saying. That it's the same thing. It tastes the same. I've been eating eggs all my life. We switched to Just Egg. There's no difference.
It bakes well.
Yeah. So what's the point? Now you're just doing it to do it. And it's the same thing with meat. Once, we're at a point where there's substitutes, and people tell me, whenever they hear that I'm vegan, did you, I need more protein. I need this. I feel like everyone that goes vegan ends up being sick. Yeah, you got to get your protein from different sources. Like you can't just start eating fucking Oreos every day when you go vegan.
You can.
You can, but you got to start getting your nutrition from other sources for sure. And there's even celebrities that say, I stopped being vegan because it was...
Never trust someone that goes back on being vegan.
They're going to go back on everything at that point. How do you go back on being vegan?
I decided that animals shouldn't die for a while, but then I decided that I'd rather eat them for lunch.
Ridiculous.
Disgusting.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And I feel like and a more global scale, and I do think it all comes down to the awareness, right? That the awareness is what breaks that illusion, that veil. And when you're actually looking at it and realizing that you're taking in dead animals and taking in the products of other human creatures, not human, living creatures.
Yeah.
Might as well be human.
Yeah, they're so... no one wants to really look at the videos because it's one thing, the slaughter videos are gross. How about just watch videos of cows and chickens and whatever animals people decide to eat. Watch them enjoy life and tell me that you think it's okay for them to get murdered and beat up just so that you can eat it.
Yeah, and
even when there's alternatives.
And even the people that eat meat, but then they also say that they're spiritual, right? Which I just can't understand. If you believe in things like, everyone, you're one with the universe, and everything's connected.
That's even more disgusting. Whose soul are you eating at this point?
Yeah, and if you have this, if you have the idea of a cosmic unconsciousness and all these things that are in your mind,
cosmic consciousness. Said unconsciousness.
Consciousness. And that's all, in your mind, then how can you go and destroy life? That's like destroying a part of you.
Yeah.
Right? If the universe is a unity and you're part of that unity, stop destroying life. I don't think you can call yourself, you know, I don't want to draw the hard line here, right? Because you can learn certain things and you can, you know, be meditative and be that type of person. I mean, Jesus ate meat, you know, Ramakrishna ate meat. These people did eat meat in the past and they were Buddhas and enlightened beings, but there's something wrong with it. There's something missing from it.
But in the time, 3,000 years ago, though, I don't know what the food supply was like. I don't know that they knew grain. I don't know what was available there. So I'm not saying that in ancient times, there was no reason to need animal products for survival. I'm not saying that. But we're so far from ancient times. Like, the people that are, you know, against being vegetarians are a far cry from Jesus.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I know, I understand. I'm just saying it has to come from your own understanding. You have to just take it from your own understanding. If you try to do it without it coming from you understanding what you're doing and you're doing it because someone says you should, you're going to just be thinking about meat all day. It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell you, being very aggressive towards people about not eating meat is never a good idea, because they will withdraw into themselves, because it's also a tradition. It's also just something you do as a family, you know, Thanksgiving dinners and turkeys.
It's brainwashing.
It's brainwashing, but it's also tradition. And you are asking, you know, you are breaking tradition. It's hard to break tradition. It's hard to break the things that you've been doing all your life. But if you do, the more and more you become aware, the more you get to that state, it has to drop away. It's going to fall away. There's no way that you can keep doing it. There's no way that you can keep being aware and being in that meditative state all day and still be consuming that type of food. Yeah. If you are, you're really just not aware.
Or you're evil.
Again, let's not be too aggressive to people that don't eat meat.
I find when people get so defensive, it's because they can't stand to look at it in themselves. And it's easier to feel anger towards me for bringing it up than it is to look inside themselves and realize that they're not in alignment with their own beliefs.
No, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. What it is you're attacking them and you're attacking their way.
But even when I'm not, I've made an effort to be less offensive about it.
You have. And anytime you say that it's wrong, or you even give your personal opinions on it, you are in effect making them close off, because that's their way.
But it's not my opinion. I'm talking about giving someone saying, "Oh, well, why don't you eat eggs?" and then telling them why.
And they will also close off because they don't want. They've been told what's right all their life. They need the time. It's good that they know that, but they need the time. They're not saying, "Oh, I'm not." No one's gonna immediately start looking inside themselves. That's not the problem. It's just they need to break that barrier, and that barrier can only be broken through understanding that the source for sure, but also the awareness. And they need to start becoming more aware. And it's getting to a point where there's so little awareness that's becoming hard. But luckily, there is a trend towards veganism now. So at least people are trying it through the trend.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I mean, just how many animals have to suffer while people get used to the idea that maybe we shouldn't be murdering things. You know, another thing that I find to be outrageously hypocritical, you were saying people that are concerned with the environment but aren't vegan are ridiculously hypocritical. The people who are concerned with like cancel culture and pronouns and this and that, like, oh, let's make sure that every word out of our mouths is completely perfect and inclusive, while shoving their faces with dead animals that they're responsible for being killed.
Yeah, I don't think Yeah, people decide what they want to get upset about, and it's rarely about this. And I don't even think you should be getting upset about this.
You don't think I should be getting
I don't think you
upset?
should be getting upset.
It's
People
not
have to
about
come-
anger towards people. It's about feeling impotent when you know that there's suffering going on and how simple it could be for it to change, but seeing that people aren't making the effort.
Yeah.
People aren't practicing compassion. That's what's upsetting. Because I can't just go and free all the animals. The most I could do is help spread awareness. And even when I do that, massive backlash. Oh, your shoes and this and that. Yes, the shoes that I bought years ago before I was vegan that I literally don't wear anymore because I don't want someone to look at me and think, oh, I want those too, and then go and buy them. So they just sit in my closet.
Very expensive Louboutin shoes.
And that's another thing. It's fashion. You can't buy anything. Like, I haven't bought anything new in so long. Aside from, there's a couple little things, couple little products that are vegan. But then a lot of the ones that even claim that they are vegan, some of the Prada, not claim that they're vegan, but they say, oh, there's no leather, like Prada and Dior. They actually have these little leather tags on them. Like Prada around the triangle, the backing of it is leather. They'll put it on nylon, let's say like, oh, it's a nylon bag, 100% nylon. There's leather on the backing of that. And then the same thing with Dior, even sometimes it's denim, blah, blah, blah. Little tag in the leather. So unnecessary. Like, we're really skinning animals for their hide at this point. Like, there isn't all synthetic material. Like, how many synthetic chemicals are in our food and we're still ripping apart animals for their products?
I know.
And it's because, and I think the real reason it's never going to change, not so much because of people not wanting to make changes, but the meat and dairy and that whole industry. And I feel bad because it's like, what is going to happen? Say even right now, everyone decided we're not doing this. Well, so many people would lose their jobs. The system would implode.
It has to be a slow process, and I think it's getting there. I think things are slowly moving in that direction. People are being more vocal about it.
You know, I have an idea. Okay. Instead of taking all this money for government funding for climate change, because I don't know what they're doing with that money, give it to the dairy and meat and whatever. Give them all money to just stop and just let all the animals go and then stop allowing animal torturing.
I mean, it's a great fantasy story, but that's not feasible at all.
Why is it not feasible? It's just not. They're just not going to do it.
Meat industry. It's about people.
Yeah, but what if you just said it's not okay? Then the people who really want to do it can. All those school shooters, they can let it out on the cows if they need to.
There's a demand. There's too much demand. Once the demand goes down, then naturally it'll go away. But it has to be a natural thing. It can't be this hard line. And there's no government on the planet right now that's going to do something like
Governments are starting to implement plant-based things. I can't remember what
I'm sure everything, and this is the only way, because it's going to get to a point where we have things like lab-grown meat.
Oh, no, it was LA. They're starting to do something about going plant-based.
Well, it's going to get to a point where we have lab-grown things. We have meat substitutes that are, cheaper and more widely available. And at that point, you're going to have to make the determination. You're going to have to decide to eat authentic meat from a dead animal versus something that tastes similar, that looks exactly similar, texture, everything. And if you're going to be an asshole and still do that, that's you. And
I'm sure because it's the foodies. I'm sure the foodie people will be like, no, I need the real thing. I need to smell the death.
I don't think it's the foodies. I think it's just the macho people are gonna still keep it alive, where it's like, oh no, I need the dead animal, because none of those people are aware of what they're doing, and they're just following, whatever terrible views that they've always had, and they're gonna stick to them, and they're gonna stick to them harder, because even right now people are saying, oh, I would never eat anything lab grown or whatever it is as meat eaters. Like, they're vowing, they're putting it down. They'll never do
it sounds disgusting, but I think it sounds the most disgusting because they're actually bringing light to what they're putting in their mouths, because it's skin and flesh and muscle.
Yeah. It's just lab grown versus killed. But again, it's changing. All the restaurants are starting to go have vegan options.
Barely.
We have 11 Madison Park that went fully vegan.
Okay, they went vegan, and now all they're serving is a bowl of peas with tofu on top. They're giving vegan a bad name.
It's a move in the right direction. It's moving all in the right direction. So it's just a matter of time.